Chaos ASMR here, and I'm back with another video. As always, I hope this video finds you doing well. Today, I want to share my thoughts and a little bit of a rant about school, the modern education system, and spoiler alert, my opinion is not great about it. So first off, I think no matter how many people express their discontent feelings towards the system as it currently sits, it will not change no matter what. I think that everything is completely by design. It's very deliberate and it serves a very specific purpose. It's like old John D. Rockefeller said, "I am in the business of making a nation of workers, not thinkers." And that's really what my argument stems down to. I mean, you are taught to remember, repeat, and regurgitate information, but you are not taught to question anything when it comes to school, at least when I was in school 20 years ago. More and more in this modern day and age am I left just shaking my head at people's complete willingness to blindly follow what they are told. You know, the narrative that is being pushed in multiple different kind of facets and areas. I was a really bad student. Basically, as far back as I can remember, I was always a really bad student. You know, I just had such a difficult time sitting still in this desk day after day, learning things that I really don't care about and being tested on them, and from there being rewarded or punished based on how well I followed the rules. I think it's unnatural to make kids sit in an uncomfortable chair and desk for 8 hours a day while you try to force them to learn things that they don't care about. Now, reading, writing, basic arithmetic gets the Chaos ASMR seal of approval. I think those are important life skills that will carry on for the rest of everyone's lives. But what I think the school system really is missing is not common sense, but more of a life skills type of class. Things like bushcraft, survival, basic nutrition, and medicine. Gym class, all we did was play dodgeball. I think it would be so much better for us to learn about how the body works, how the immune system works, proper nutrition, vitamins, nutrients, macro, micros, things like how do taxes work, how to get a mortgage, what is a Roth IRA, things that you will actually use. And by the way, this is not necessarily a unique perspective that I have. I know a lot of people share this idea that you're being taught things that have absolutely no bearing on day-to-day adult life and things you will never and will never want to use again. It's like in one ear and out the other. But what this does is condition people to be in a stressful environment. Like, I remember even in high school learning like quadratic equations and wanting to tear every hair out of my head out of frustration. But that's what they want. They want you to sit, they want you to focus, obey, follow orders, do as you're told, and condition you to being in a stressful environment so you become a good little employee. By the way, I have absolutely no problem with teachers. I think teachers, especially elementary school, are probably one of the most underrated and underpaid professions that exists in the world today. I mean, if you have a niece or a nephew or a cousin or something like that, watch them for the day and just feel how exhausted hours. What does this have to do with anything? But, I was just basically told to shut up and do your work. Also, too, I'm a major fidgeter. I've established this on this channel before. I was a fidgeter before it was cool, before it was trendy. I prefer to use the term tactile learner, and I don't even know if that's real. Maybe I just made it up. But this idea that when I have something to keep my hands busy, it really helps me focus on what I'm being told and absorb a lot more information. It's almost like if you're telling me, okay, don't do anything, sit perfectly still, straight up, and just focus on what you're being told. It's like you have to focus so hard on it that you're more worried about focusing than you are actually learning, if that makes any sense. So for me, it was torture in that way because I always got in trouble for having, little toys or, poking holes in my eraser with my pencil or just mucking around with stuff. And, if I were allowed and permitted to do that, I think I would have had a much easier time with learning. Even my own grandmother, to this day, always is telling me, hey, quit messing around with that, I'm talking to you. I'm like, I know, I'm messing around with it because you're talking to me. I want to be able to focus on what you're saying. I don't know. If you relate to this in any way, leave it in the comments because I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this. Even in university, I had a professor named Gail, and she, would always send me to the back of the lecture hall because I was too distracting to the other students when I'd be sitting there messing around, or I would just stand up in the middle of lectures because I'm like, man, I can't just sit here forever. Like, this is prison, this is torture. And I do think when you look at prisons and you look at schools, they are very similar. Everything is on a strict timeline. You get this much yard time. This is when you're allowed to eat. This is when you're allowed to go to the bathroom. Follow orders. Do this. Do that. This is the deadline. No exceptions. And that's really unfortunate. I think if you were to put children into an environment where they could creatively thrive, and I'm not saying, oh, we're making macaroni pictures and oh, you're so creative, but just true creative liberty in an environment that supports that, I think we would have a whole different generation of people than we do now. When you really think about it, you just don't learn anything about how the world really works, how people really work, why do people do the things that they do, how to resolve conflicts within yourself and with other people would be a great thing to teach. I don't know, I look back and to think, oh yeah, we spent so much time studying Shakespeare. And I'm not knocking Shakespeare. I mean, if you like Shakespeare, that's awesome. I personally don't. And I've acted in a few Shakespeare plays, actually, and I'm just not really, a fan. But I digress, that's not the point. It's not to knock Shakespeare, but imagine all the time you spent learning Shakespeare was spent learning about, proper nutrition. I truly feel that through the advent of the internet, in its last, 15 years, I have learned more about the world, more about fitness and health, more about people, more about history and architecture and technology that is actually applicable information that you'll use. I've learned more in a year of independently using the that should be taught. In my opinion, that is the number one thing that should be taught. Now, I don't think we should all be medical students, and I'm not talking about learning about pharmaceuticals. I'm talking about essentially nutrition and food should be the number one thing that we learn. Like, even a lot of health experts now are saying, like, dementia is type 3 diabetes, where your brain and body are completely resistant to insulin. Now, why does that happen? It's because everything that you buy at the grocery store is packed full of sugar because it's cheap, it's a high margin commodity, and it's addictive. Keep people coming back for more. Just learning and studying these basic ailments and learning how to protect yourself from these things. You know, every kid wants to eat sugar, and, you know, say, no, that's bad for you, that's bad for you. You know, kids don't care. But to explore that in depth and say, why is this bad for you? This is how you get high blood pressure, diabetes, stroke, dementia. This might be the reason why you're developing autoimmune diseases. This might be why you're feeling sluggish, you have depression, you have anxiety. But right now, you know, the narrative is, oh yeah, red meat causes cancer. I had a client of mine, I'm a massage therapist, tell me that her 3rd grade daughter within their curriculum are saying that, you know, bugs are so much healthier than meat, and the world is changing towards eating a lot more insects. Really? Is it red meat that humans have been eating for thousands of years that is causing cancer? Or is it something like this, where the list is so long it'll make your head spin, full of known human carcinogens and things that the body cannot process, that is super hard on your organs. This is kind of turning into a health video, and it's not necessarily what I intended, but this is also not scripted, so I'm just kind of going with where my mind takes me. But yeah, the overall summary, the point of what I'm saying here, is that school 100% effectively churns out as many, you know, consumers and obedient workers as it possibly can. Those who fall in line, speak when spoken to, don't ask any questions, consume. I think education is very important, but in this day and age, you have to educate yourself. You have to find that fire and that spark and educate yourself above the substandard levels of things that are being taught in school. So I'm very much pro-education. I think one of the healthiest things you can do is have a thirst for knowledge. When you look at something and think, how does that work? How was this built? How was this system put into place? I'm curious. I'd like to know the answer. I'm going to do some research and educate myself on this particular topic. I think that's an incredibly healthy thing to do. Do not take things just at face value. This is what this is. Well, why is it this way? You know what I mean? Curiosity. Like, even the saying, like, curiosity killed the cat, is such a bad thing to tell kids because, you know, you're discouraging exploration, curiosity. It's like, okay, here's a really good example. I forget who said this. I think it was Neil Tyson that said this. If there's an egg on a countertop and a kid is going to reach it and knock it off, what's going to happen? Well, of course, it's going to fall and crack and make a big mess. So we say, no, don't touch that. interesting. So even something as simple as that, like, and this just, oh, I'm so glad I came to this, because that just perfectly sums up what I'm trying to say. It's like, no, 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 don't touch that egg. You go sit down and behave and do what you're told. Instead of encouraging that curiosity that gets this child exposed to these different things and starts the wheels and cogs thinking, why is this? Oh, actually learning things through experience rather than things that you are just being told. Oh, and I just remembered, don't even get me started on history. I think history books have been manipulated as far back as they have been written, but that is another topic for another time. I think I've ranted long enough about the education system for today. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments what you think of the education system. Thank you for being here as always. If you enjoy this video, a thumbs up always helps in aiding this small channel to grow. I'm Chaos ASMR. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.